Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. I received an interesting question from a person in Chicago who is housebound for medical reasons, asking what radio he should be looking for as he studies for his technician license. And I really got to thinking about it. There's a lot more to what needs to be said here than just, go buy a handheld or get the reference station or something like that. And so I wanted to do this little video to kind of talk about what is your communications mission, which may be greater than just ham radio. I've put a few charts together. Let's take a look at them. These charts discuss what a communications mission is. Here's the I think this came as a comment on my website. It says, my son and I are working together to be able to pass our tech in general. Okay, great. And they're using the study site hamradioprep.com. And I am not familiar with that particular site. I hope that it offers you background material as well as just giving you a drill in the test questions. If you want, you could also go to ke0og.net/training, and it will give you the videos that go along with the ARRL book. Now, this website recommends taking the tech and general tests at the same day. For one, it saves on money. Well, the real reason for that is to get you not only your tech, but also be able to get on HF. With general, and I'm going to make the assumption that that's what you're going to do. Okay. Now, Bertram says, I'm homebound for medical reasons and no longer drive or even go out. Okay, here is a person who is confined to his home, and so this is why I'm asking, what are you going to use ham radio for? What is it that's driving you to ham radio? He says, once we're in the FCC ULS database, what ham would you recommend? Now, whenever I hear the term ham used that way, I'm going, okay, we're talking to somebody who's brand new to the hobby. The word ham is an adjective, like ham radio. Or ham contest, or ham bands, or something like that. It's not a noun. It doesn't refer to a thing other than a piece of meat in your refrigerator, which you would call ham, but it's an adjective. So what ham radio would you recommend, or etc. like that, would indicate to me somebody who has gotten a little further along in their studies. I read your list, okay, but a mobile one isn't useful. He's looking at the reference station. He says it's not useful as we don't own a car. They're using mass transit here in Chicago. Okay, so a mobile radio won't be useful in a car, but that doesn't mean a mobile radio won't be useful, as I'll show you in a minute. Okay, he says, yeah, maybe I should be waiting to ask till after we are in the database, but each 2 days we're doing a chapter, etc. Okay. Well, I strongly recommend that you do not acquire equipment until you have your license. Once you get your license, you know enough to at least get something that's like something that you're working for. I'm going to actually recommend some specific pieces of equipment here. But first, let's step back from just ham radio. We've got a man and his son. The man is homebound. Okay, so what is the communications mission here? Mission is, the end result you wish to obtain when you undertake result-focused activities. The term objective is used a lot, but I'm an old military guy, so I use mission. One mission for communications has to do with health and welfare. Can you use ham radio for that? Yes, and people certainly have. But it's not what you would call something you would use for your primary means of doing that. Connecting with other people and staying in touch. Well, certainly you can do that. You can use a handheld to talk on a repeater to your friends. If everything is going okay, Bertram and his son can get in touch over a repeater, etc. Now, another mission is to expand your world. When you're stuck at home, it's nice to be able to expand your world and get on the air and rag chew, talk to people. Whether it's on VHF or UHF repeater, or whether it's on HF. I think HF you'll find this. And then there's all the classic ham radio stuff that you'd like to do. DX contests, FT8, Parks on the Air, things like that go on and on. So now, thinking about that, let's go back and talk about some of the ways that Bertram and his son can meet their mission. Now, I'm old, and so I get the AARP, the American Association of Retired People magazines, and they're always trying to sell us stuff for old people. One of the things here is a little button that you wear on a necklace. And when you have trouble, such as you've fallen and you can't get up, or you slipped in the bathtub, or whatever reason, you push the button and that connects you to help. And it's right there on your chest. There's a fee for it, as you can see here. Here is another one that's in the same issue of the magazine that I was looking at. Okay. Some of these require that you have a home phone. Some of them do not. But I'm going to talk about phones. I'm going to recommend to somebody who is homebound and can be by himself without his son being there all the time or his wife checking in, that in addition to your cell phone, you have an old-fashioned copper wire connected telephone. Okay? That you have this in addition to your cell phone. Now, there's a little bit of sticker shock when you get these things here. I'm going to talk about plain old-fashioned telephones. And I'm reviewing this because there are so many people who have forgotten what old-fashioned telephone service was like. And it happens to still be around. It's still there. Old-fashioned telephones, you have to find a service provider. This is separate from finding the phone. Getting the phone is, okay, you got a weird piece of plastic in your house, but that doesn't get you anywhere. You have to get a service provider. Usually there's only one in a given area. Here in Montrose it's CenturyLink. And there in Chicago there may be 2 or 3, but in any given area there's usually only one. Be prepared for sticker shock for the monthly bills, okay? Between $50 and $100, okay, just for a plain old-fashioned telephone. There are many options, and believe it or not, long distance is an option that you have to pay extra for on a phone, unless you can get some kind of special deal. The caller ID mechanism on plain old telephones is much better than what we get on our cell phones. The only way you get a caller ID on your cell phone is if you have previously punched in to your contact who it is. Whereas with the regular telephone, the caller ID will tell you who's calling. You can also get voicemail with your phone and so on. You have to provide the phone. Now, make sure that at least one of the telephones in your house that's connected. Now, this is kind of an interesting concept. It's very different from cell phones. You can have several people in a household, each with their own cell phone. And we're kind of getting used to that. Whereas with the old-fashioned telephone, there's one telephone, but there can be several extensions, so people can use the one line from multiple places. The reason you should ensure that at least one of your phones is this plain old telephone right here is because this phone does not require any power. does not require batteries, does not need a wall wart, does not need anything. It is powered entirely by the copper lines that come from the telephone company. And you can imagine what kind of a difference that could make in an emergency. If you have a power outage and you slipped and fallen, your little portable phones aren't going to work, but your plain old telephone service, these are often called POTS phones, and it literally stands for plain old telephone service that doesn't require home power. And then you can add other phones if you want. Now, obviously, the cell phone, okay? These days, everyone has a cell phone. That's mine. It's an Apple 5S. It's getting old, but it keeps working. As long as it keeps working, I'm going to keep using it. So you'll want cell phones. So both you and your son need cell phones. This is the easiest way to reach out, because you can reach out not only to your son, but to lots of other people, and you can call 911 from your cell phone. Now, cell phones sometimes will keep working when the power goes out. Sometimes they do not. So, whereas you may want to call 911 from your plain old telephone service, because there is an address tightly bound to that telephone number. To this, it's a little different. You can be calling 911 from just about anywhere, and it may take a little bit longer to get them vectored to the right place. Let us suppose that you have a stroke, okay? If you call 911 on this phone and just leave the handset on the ground, call 911, they will come to you even though you don't say a word. They will come to you and find out what's going on and why there's a 911 call from this point. This is an advantage over a cell phone because they don't know where the cell phone is. Now, some communities have the capability of reading the GPS in your phone, and that can be really helpful. Sometimes, however, converting the GPS to an address can be a little bit of an issue. So you provide the phone. I would recommend that one of your phones be on the floor, so that if you end up in a position where you've fallen and you can't get up, which is common among older people, you can still call. And crawl over to the phone and make your 911 call. Okay, now let's talk about ham radio. This is a mobile radio. It's even listed as a mobile radio. This happens to be ICOM's radio that's a dual band transceiver, FM only, okay? And it's got a good 50 watts out of that thing. So you use this at home. This is your base or home rig. ICOM calls them base stations, but this is your, in 2 meters, this is what you use at home. Note that the front comes off. This can be nice if, for example, it's more convenient to mount the main body, up on a shelf and put this down lower where you can get to it. Or just leave it all together and mount it somewhere. These aren't all that big. I'll show you how big they are in a little bit here. But this particular radio is a very nice one, got lots of features, all the standard FM features that you might be looking for. It's got memory channels, so you can put in your favorite repeaters. It just, does everything except the dinner dishes and digital. It does not do digital. I'm just picking strictly FM here. Now if you go to DX Engineering, here's about how much you pay for it. Again, a little bit of sticker shock on these things, $249. That's about right for what one of these costs. and you're going to need to get a power supply, and you're going to need to get an outdoor antenna, dual band outdoor antenna, and you're going to need to get some cable, and you're going to need somebody to string all that up. Presumably your son can do that. You can watch my videos on how that's done. Now, handhelds come in handy. For example, you'd want this for home. Your base station or mobile station transceiver for home, and then each of you probably wants a handheld. Okay? A handheld can slip into a coat pocket very easily, and so that takes care of the VHF part. This part you can do with your technician license. Let's talk about what you can do with your general license. Now, your general license is not going to address directly the emergency communications needs that you may have. It will, however, open up a whole new world to you, because all day long and well into the night, and as the sunspots get better, it'll be really well into the night, you can get on an HF radio and find people to talk to, which is a whole lot better than being at home and staring at the TV. Okay? You have two-way conversations, and the neat thing about this is that you don't know in advance who might be on there. You go around looking for people. If you look on here, each one of these vertical lines represents a separate signal. Okay? Separate signals. You've got your FT8, you've got single sideband and stuff like that. This happens to be tuned to 7073, which is in the digital area, and you're seeing some stuff from, let's see, lower sideband, so you're seeing PSK 31 right here, okay? Now, this radio will set you back more. This is the $1,000 kind of radio, and you need an antenna and a power supply and so on, okay? So we have started all the way with thinking through your communications needs. Not all needs are met via ham radio alone, but ham radio can open up a whole new world. So going back to our needs here, health and welfare, you know, you're at home for medical reasons and you're stuck there. Getting a hold of 911 under any and all circumstances is extremely important. And even when the power goes out, that plain old telephone system will still work. Okay? You need to connect with other people to stay in touch. That's a combination of the telephone and the radio. You can expand your world on HF, join clubs, things like that, and all the usual ham radio stuff that goes along. So that gives you my thoughts on a communications mission, which was just quite simply sort of came from studying this line right here. Oh, I'm going to mess that up. This line right here, I'm homebound for medical reasons. Okay, so we want to do more for communications than just talk to anybody who might happen to be around. We want to be able to get help. And that's where the phone, these little things like this, get one recommended by your doctor, and so on, can save your life, literally. Okay? So, there are my final thoughts. All right, there we are. We've had a chance to look at all that. I told you I'd show you a real mobile radio. This is a real mobile radio. This is a Yaesu. It is a dual band FM. It does the same thing as that radio I showed you on there. It's got the microphone on it with all the buttons and so on. See, this can sit anywhere. And this also has the one where the front comes off, which is a feature I never use. And it's got a connector for an outdoor antenna. It's standard SO239 and all kinds of features. This is a typical handheld. This happens to be a digital handheld, and Anytone D878UV. No, I got that much. It's an 878. This thing right here will fit in a coat pocket, will go on a belt clip or something like that. And if your son is out where you and your son can hit the same repeater, then you can communicate over this radio. One of the problems, of course, is that lots of other people are using that repeater too. So, it's not necessarily something to be used in a come home now I need help a sort of thing. That is what that's for. Okay, so I hope that helps. I just wanted to think a little bit beyond, out of the box of thinking about communications needs. Why are we communicating, and do we have the right tools for the right job? In this situation, I think I would advise a little more than ham radio, but I really would advise ham radio, because this thing allows you to talk to people on all the repeaters you can get to around Chicagoland, and this can go with you wherever you're going, and of course you've got your cell phones and everything. And that HF radio, you can talk to the world with that HF radio. Okay, that is something you can sit at and make new friends all day. So that's a fascinating little item there. So if you'd like to contribute financially to this channel, you certainly can. Go to dcasler.com/support, and there's a page there that lists a whole bunch of different ways of doing things, everything from buying certain things on Amazon to Patreon to the tip jar to the PayPal subscriptions and so on and so forth, that you can help do that. The channel has been doing very well, and I really appreciate that, and am trying to devote time to the channel. My goal is a video a day. I can't always do that, but I can certainly try. In the meantime, until we next meet, 73.